Welcome to this episode of Sounds of Success with Noah Swiderski, where we explore the journeys and insights of remarkable leaders. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Kevin Erickson, the president and founder of LeaderShyft. Kevin combines business acumen with psychological expertise to fuel leadership growth and enhance team performance. His unique approach focuses on the individuals behind organizations, believing that their growth directly influences overall success. Join us as we delve into Kevin's philosophy, experiences, and valuable insights on leadership and team dynamics. Welcome to the program, Kevin.
Thanks, Noah. Happy to be here. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So could you take us back, maybe share a little bit about your journey into leadership development and what really inspired you to start LeaderShyft?
I think, like for many people in their careers, the journey is one that isn't always planned out from the beginning. It's a bit of a discovery quite a bit of discovery along the way. I think you just used the word inspiration. What inspired me? I think there's a couple of primary things. First of all, earlier in my career in operations leadership, I found myself in one of my first senior roles where I had a team in total of about 50, and it was in that context where I just discovered that I liked this stuff, this leading people, working with the team, collaborating. And it was then when I decided I need to go back to school. I did my MBA at the time. So that was the first inspiration, just having that experience in that dynamic. It was really fulfilling. And then I think the other one took many years for me to understand, and that was my love for learning. And the fact that once I figured that out, I figured out that I really like to help other people learn too. And in consulting, quite a bit of what I do is helping bring new information or different ways of seeing things. So those two things, just working with the people, collaborating on things, and then learning myself and then helping others learn. Those are the two biggest inspirations that led me on this path to where I am doing the consulting work I do. Yeah.
I love that. And you emphasize working from the inside out. How do you approach connecting with individuals within organizations to foster growth?
I think it's, kind of like we're doing here right now. We're doing something with intent, with the work that we each do. And at the same time, we're just connecting as people, right? Just learning a little bit about each other. And I think that's part of what makes me different in the work I do. And also, I certainly know, because I have the comments, that's what people appreciate about the work I do. So to me, it's about showing up to do great work and producing something good, having some success, so to speak. And at the same time, really just understanding people. And who people are, because we all operate a little bit differently, and we all have our strengths and weaknesses. And once you can figure out that and be honest with yourself and others about those things, that's when you can really engage differently and improve performance overall.
What are some of the common challenges you may see leaders facing today, and how can they overcome them?
Yeah, I think first, a bit of context is important. Most of, or many of the leaders that I work with, business owners, the context is they have what is no longer really a small business. Like, it's on the cusp of it's certainly mid-size, kind of going beyond, somewhere in there. But the context is they've done a hell of a job building the business they have, and now they're trying to figure out how to take it a little bit further, and they're starting to run into some roadblocks. So one of the most common things that I do deal with is exactly that. It's like, if you can imagine this picture of campfire, you got your team around you, and you're cozy and having you're just enjoying each other's company at the campfire, maybe singing a few songs. And that's what business feels like early on. It's tough work. You got to feed that fire, but you get to know your crew. Well, next thing you know, that fire is rip roaring and it's going, and you have to do different things, and you have to adjust. And if you don't adjust, either the fire's going to go out or it's just going to burn you because you didn't back up. So that's the context. The biggest thing I run into is leaders continue to do the same things that they've done over and over to make them successful to where they are. Good on them. However, what they need to do now is a little bit different, and how you need to structure your organization is a little bit different. So that's the biggest roadblock is just not recognizing the change required.
You talk about keeping that flame burning. I think that's so important, especially within the culture of successful companies. I would say personally, emotional intelligence is one of your superpowers. How do you believe it impacts leadership effectiveness?
I mean, obviously, we know it does. There's no question there. I think how it impacts it, to me, it always comes down to needs. You have to kind of go through the emotions, because that's the doorway to understanding your own needs and others' needs. And if we don't understand that, we can't meet our needs, others' needs, the organization's needs. And not until we can balance all of those and meet all those needs can we have a really high-performing team. So to me, emotional intelligence is a lot about understanding what everybody needs and trying to find the right balance.
Can you maybe discuss a specific case where your coaching significantly improved the team's performance, and what were the key takeaways?
Sure. I think one of my favorite memories is where there was this huge shift I saw for one particular owner. Context was there's 4 owners, 2 couples, so 2 married couples. You can imagine kind of a funny dynamic, great people. It was a lot of fun. Early on, when I arrived there, the context was they were a manufacturing organization. They were creating a lot of defects, and that's what they wanted help with. And as we started to go through, I started to realize that the defects themselves weren't the problems. So what I did there was a couple of key things that we worked on. I brought them a different approach to discovering and exploring the problem, and I presented a few tools to analyze and measure data. So those 2 things told a completely different story. In short, it helped us discover that the estimates for each particular part or job that they were creating were just wrong. They were inaccurate, and it was causing particular people to rush and make mistakes. And when I was able to show this particular owner, the one that was doing the estimates, that about 60% of his effort doing estimates was only bringing in about 5% of all revenue. And seeing this for him was like a light bulb. And I can vividly remember it. At the beginning of our work, he was the one, sit back with his arms crossed, not really bought into all this, right? And that moment in particular, the light bulb went on, and for the rest of it, he's got his arms on the table, elbows on the table, and he's just really bought in. This was a fairly small company. Revenue was probably only a few $1 million a year. And they've been around for a long time, but just never really made money. Didn't lose money, but didn't make money. And within 10 months of that exercise, they had achieved an annual net income of $100,000. So for them, it was really huge. And that was one of my favorite moments, even though it was just a fairly small company. Big impact.
You mentioned big impact. Sometimes it comes down to just that small shift, just like you were mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
You have expertise in Lean Six Sigma. How do you integrate process improvement methodologies into your coaching practice?
Well, 2 things. I mean, quite often I'm brought in specifically with that focus, process improvement, when we bring that to the table. And I think integrating it into coaching is, I think, more that view of just, you used the words, the small shift. It's looking for those small shifts over time and finding those ones that the individual or the team can relate to and understand and allow them to see things differently, to make just the small shift. And then we keep looking for those things and do things just a little bit differently.
And kind of touching on that, conflict resolution is crucial in really any organization, as you do well know. What strategies do you recommend for leaders to handle conflicts effectively?
Yeah, I love the topic. It's one that I'm a bit passionate about. In fact, I do some workshops that I call courageous communication, and it's really all about this. And I've already spoken to needs. So when we're talking about conflict resolution, I lean heavily towards the needs. And for any of your viewers or listeners that want a resource, there's one of the books that it's one of these legendary books. It's great. It's called Crucial Conversations. read that book, and it gives you some really great insight into how to work with this. That's one of the books. Another one that goes a little bit deeper into the needs and understanding how that weaves into all this is called Nonviolent Communication. That one's more of a I'd say more from like the psychology end of things, but also a great book. So I forget your question now, but conflict management, yeah, those two things. So it's really about the skill of how to communicate what your needs are. So understanding them first. Most of us actually don't often understand our own needs. So it's about understanding those and having the skill to have the conversation about those, and also uncovering the other person's needs at the same time.
Someone that, being a leader like yourself and someone that loves to continuously develop and learn, in your opinion, what role does continuous learning play in personal and organizational growth?
I think quite frankly, it's everything. I often tell leaders that, especially business owners, your organization will grow in proportion to your own personal growth. It cannot grow beyond that, not unless you hire a CEO and step back and that person is doing the work and they're doing the learning. You can't take your business any further without learning something new. At some point, you will hit the limit of your own knowledge. So whether it's knowledge or skill or just whether it's the knowledge and skill related to the structural piece and the accountability required in the organization, or the knowledge and skill from that empathy piece and how to work with people and interact differently. You just need to keep learning.
I've always mentioned that too, that, you're a true reflection of your business. So if you're growing, the business is growing. You are the business, and I feel like they are so in sync that you always should be striving to get better. And I commend you for that with LeaderShyft. How do you measure success when working with clients? What metrics or indicators do you like to focus on?
Well, clearly the clients are always interested in bottom line metrics, right? And that's really important. I like to also find some leading indicators in there, or process metrics, so you can break it down a little bit more rather than just pure profit numbers, which are important. That's a big reason why we're here. But I would break it down into different process metrics, and from the balanced scorecard approach, the other pieces that matter as well. What are the people metrics, the people development metrics. So we need to have an understanding of how different pieces of the organization are performing. And to that point, I think, largely speaking, in my experiences, that businesses have not nearly enough insight into how the different pieces of the business are performing.
And with it being March already in the year, time's flying by, we're looking ahead. What trends do you see and kind of foresee in leadership development over the next few years, and how should leaders prepare for these changes?
Well, I think the obvious is AI. I mean, that's changing everything. And I think, in my view, in many, many good ways, it's making so many things much more efficient. So how we deliver content changes, how we even the recommendations we make. Oh, and by the way, when we're talking leadership development, to me, that's far more than the individual. I look at leadership as a process, as systems, so organizational leadership, and then there's individual leadership. On the organizational leadership, how we deliver things and what we recommend will change because there's new options. Process improvement, there's new options to improve processes that lean more heavily on this new technologies and new applications. So that's clearly the biggest thing. The other trend is the ongoing trend of the emotional intelligence side, and this is a big piece for me right now. This difference between accountability and empathy. And if we look back decades, we've all heard stories or perhaps experienced like that command and control type leadership. And at some point we discovered, hey, there's a better way, right? So we brought in the EI and the empathy. And I find quite often that we do the Tarzan swing. We go too far one way, and we're still trying to find the balance. So I think the balance of these, empathy and accountability, is what I'm seeing. And the trend, I think, is trying to find the balance of those, because maybe we start to go too far and make too many allowances, and kind of we excessively cross boundaries and allow that to happen because we want our people to be happy. Job market's different. Sometimes it's hard to get people, so we're careful around that. Yet we still have to find the right balance and have accountability as well.
It's such a complicated space and so many layers to it, but I truly feel like you in LeaderShyft are bringing simplicity back to it, really breaking it down to, just like you said, could be a small little shift, but have a massive impact. So I really wanted to thank you for your time today. I know everyone's going to get a lot from it, and definitely excited to have you back on.
My pleasure. No, it was great chatting with you. I look forward to catching up again.
Appreciate it. Thank you for joining us today for this insightful conversation with Kevin Erickson. His passion for developing leaders and enhancing team performance shines through in his work at LeaderShyft. Remember, the growth of an organization is rooted in the growth of its individuals. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to Sounds of Success and share it with others who aspire to elevate their leadership journey. Until next time, keep striving for excellence.